Is embarking on a fresh journey with its first-year head coach in Bacari Alexander. And Bacari, I can say for certain that when news spread before the actual announcement was made that you were going to be coming back here for your first head coaching gig to the school, that you were a successful student athlete and assistant coach at, the fan base immediately became re-energized. What's this transition been like for you here over the last 4 months as you get ready to embark on your first season?
It's been a great ebb and flow of a number of different things as we came back to retool the program and try to get it, back towards a championship level. One of the things I discovered early is the outpouring of support that has been there from those alums and friends that you recognize. But Dr. Antoine Garibaldi and his leadership team, as well as Robert Viles and his team here in athletics, has done a tremendous job of not only providing a roadmap, that's made the transition smooth, but they've given me the resources that I need to not only field the roster that we was able to build up to 16 players, but put together a pretty good coaching staff as well as we go into the Horizon League conference.
You obviously, with a new coach, you have new expectations from fans. What is the style of play offensively and defensively that fans can expect to see when your season starts exactly a month from today, Media Day, October 11th?
One of the things that I had highlighted in my remarks in my presser upon being hired was having a ton of freedom offensively. Here's a group that scored, close to 83, a little bit over 83 points a game last year. But at the same time, we gave up nearly 82 points a game as well. So we want to make sure that we are, keeping that freedom offensively, but giving zero freedom defensively, in the sense that we want to be a strong, organized man-to-man defense that limits opponents to one shot on the goal, but also understand the marriage between good, solid, fundamental half-court defense and how that can fuel transition offense that keeps us in that scoring track. So I think what you'll see is a team that plays fast, especially off clean rebounds and turnovers, and I think you'll also see a team that's connected defensively, trying to be very difficult to play against.
It's tough to do that with a new team, even at home, but especially with your experience. You guys are going to have a 4-game road trip essentially out of the gates. You have visits to big venues and big opponents with Illinois and Florida State. How much of a test will that be for this team to kind of understand their role as to what is expected from everyone, and to be able to play under control the way you want them to be in those fierce environments where they're not in the friendly confines of Callahan Hall?
Without question, the preseason NIT that gives us opponents like Illinois and Florida State, Manhattan, even New Hampshire, are all programs that are not only established programs, but programs with winning traditions. And what we want to do when we're away from Callahan Hall in particular is make sure that we're staying connected, we're staying disciplined, but we're also, giving ourselves a chance to be in games by not beating ourselves. And what that simply means is taking care of the basketball, valuing that, limiting those turnovers, to be specific. Also, it really allows us to concentrate on getting the best team shots, maybe controlling tempo a little bit better on the road, maybe changing defenses a little bit more to keep an opponent off balance. So those are all the things that we would have to concentrate on when we're not in the friendly confines of Callahan Hall on the road, just to make those games manageable.
You're a week and a half into practices at this point. What have you learned from this squad as far as everybody trying to understand what's expected of them? You have 8 returning, you have 8 newcomers, and they're all trying, and some of the newcomers didn't get here until late in the summer, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of been a mishmash of things, but what have these practices been like the last week and a half?
The luxury that we've had with all of our guys, starting with the veterans first, is that those guys are now in the week 23 with me. And so over that period of time, they've been able to not only set a tone for the younger guys, but also provide guidance. And with our young guys who came in summer 2 with us, they've not only had a high level of buy-in, not only with the veterans, but with the coaching staff. They're finding themselves, catching up and plugging the gaps that may have been there just due to the natural learning curve from making that transition from prep school or high school to college, as well as the guys in community college as well coming in. So it's been a high level of chemistry, I've noticed, but there's also been, a great sense of urgency for these guys to really speed up the learning curve because they want to play.
Three returning starters. You have preseason All-Horizon League Chris Jenkins, Josh McFarley, and Jaleel Hogan obviously had great coming out years last year in their early college careers. Those three in particular, what have you seen from them in the time you've been with them? Because I think fans want to know how they'll progress in their first year under you.
Yeah, Chris has been an Iron Man for us. I mean, I talked about those 23 weeks that we're into with those veteran players, and he's been, in the weight room. He's been in the classroom. He's been in practices. He's been vocal. He's providing guidance on, where to go to on campus, where the classroom buildings are. But from a basketball standpoint, I think Chris now is transitioning into a guy that can maybe develop into a go-to guy, a guy that can shoulder the burden of taking tough shots at tough times for our team. Josh McFarley has big shot toughness. Here's a guy that can drain a 30-footer, get to the basket or make a key steal in the game. And Jaleel Hogan, everybody in our league know he commands double teams. So here's a guy that not only is capable of being an all-conference player in his own right, but I think the next progression for all of those guys is not only shouldering more of the offensive load, but also anchoring our defense by being more intelligent and staying away from those cheap, tacky fouls that will take them out the game and weaken our approach.
It was just a year and a half ago I was fortunate enough to be at the Breslin Center and call the Detroit Western Class A Championship. McFarley and Gerald Blackshear obviously a part of that, and we just got done talking about McFarley, but you mentioned something earlier today that Gerald Blackshear is finally starting to grow into that frame that was so raw and so thin in high school and even his freshman year. What exactly has the transformation been like for him this summer?
Well, it's been tremendous. Nick Wilson, our head strength and conditioning coach that was hired in shortly after my appointment, has done a remarkable job with the entire team. But specifically in Gerald's case, here's a kid that's added 18 pounds of muscle. And so that's pretty impressive when you talk about a short period of time over the summer to be able to make those gains. But not only make those gains, but sustain them. And so now he's physically able to do some of the things that's required of his position and kind of move some people around, which he's enjoyed, in particular. But Gerald is a kid that not only is an energy player on the glass, rim running, finishing for drop-offs and dunks, but I think the added strength and conditioning will give him a higher level of endurance that will allow him to be more reliable for us as we either balance him out with Jaleel Hogan or play them both together.
You got a lot of things to worry about as a first-year head coach, but one of the things you're doing is getting out in the community and making an impact. You have an exhibition game coming up against Wayne State, $2 a ticket. All the proceeds end up going back to the Detroit Public Schools. Why? Why get yourself involved in that so early? What's the benefit for you as a coach?
I'm standing here as a product of the Detroit Public Schools, a graduate of Detroit Southwestern High School, which is closed now, a product of Halley, Middle School, which no longer exists now, a product of Fairbanks Elementary, which still, sits on the corner of the John C. Lodge and Seward Street. And so one of the things that compelled us most is how do we partner with another university that sits right here in Detroit City proper and make an impact to young people, not just in a small way, but to let them know that we're thinking about them. Our team, we mentioned Josh McFarley, we mentioned Gerald Blackshear, they're state champions from Detroit Western, Detroit PSL products. And we want to make sure that we give everybody this inclusive feel and this sense of belonging and have a philanthropic mindset in terms of how we give back. So we want all seats in Callahan Hall to be filled. $2 is the ticket. It's for a good cause. It's the new Detroit City Series with none other than my former position coach under Perry Watson at the time, David Greer, who's now leading the program at Wayne State. It's going to be a fantastic annual event, we hope, with the proper support for our schools.
Last but not least, Coach, my involvement with the Detroit Mercy has postdated your involvement here until you came back as a player and an assistant coach. So my involvement in terms of following you has been on social media, and that's something that's very important in this day of age. And you've been one that I've enjoyed following over the last few years on Twitter at Bacari34. I know you're active at Instagram as well. In today's day of age, how important is it to have that social media presence to be able to connect with the young men that you're eventually going to lead?
Denny, that's a great question. I think you have to meet people where they are. And now, as we adapt to the ever-changing landscape of how people communicate, we know social media is a huge part of it. And so what we try to do with it is leverage our messages, whether it be inspirational in nature, for those that follow my Twitter handle, informational in nature as it relates to Detroit Mercy and all the exciting things that are going on here in the Northwest Corridor and our Lift 6 Alliance. But in addition to that, try to see if we can not only frame up the mindset for people that are aspiring coaches. I may throw little nuggets on there from five-star basketball and things of that nature. We're just trying to use it as a conduit to keep people involved and aware of all the different things that are going on in Titan athletics. And we've enjoyed it quite a bit. A little bit over 19,000 followers. We're excited about that. If we can get a fragment of those followers to show up to 6 Mile and Livernois, it'll be pretty exciting in here.
The challenge is out there. Come out and join us here at Callahan Hall. He's Bacari Alexander, and this is Detroit Titans Media Day. For more, stay tuned right here to DetroitTitans.com.